welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable, where today we're going to be discussing whether the price hike, rising prices, the economy, the unemployment, whether all these have finally become election issues. We saw in the recent by-polls where the BJP didn't do as well as it is expected, and soon after that, the excise duty on petrol and diesel was cut. So somewhere is there a correlation? The Congress, in fact, did well in Himachal, a state where it has no leader, no regional, no strong leader, but yet, and there is no, the government in the state is also a BJP one, yet the Congress managed to win all the seats there. So is there some correlation between what is happening at the center, the economy, that is actually impacting the polls, or will the BJP again sweep the coming assembly on the Hindutva plank? Joining me on this discussion is Suhail Seth. He's a commentator and a columnist and an expert. He's been, he's become a very familiar face on Roundtable, really. M.K. Venu, he's a founding editor of the Wire.in. Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, who's a columnist, commentator, and written a book on Narendra Modi. Suhail, you're really, your first take on this. Is prices and economy finally becoming an issue?
India is like the bumblebee. Aerodynamically, the bumblebee is not supposed to fly. But you see, the bumblebee doesn't know that, so it flies happily. So don't put any logic to people winning or losing elections, because if that was the yardstick, what happened post-demonetization, the BJP should have never been in power. What's happened subsequently on various issues, I don't think the average Indian actually now cares. It's not who wins the election, it's who loses it. So the question that you asked about Himachal, I think Himachal was primarily BJP's loss, and it so happened that Congress were the folks there. But if you try and put logic, besides, it's too little too late. I mean, 5 rupees, 10 rupees reduction. This is like tokenism of the worst kind. But that is because even you and I will mention it as a price rise, but we won't mention it as Mehngai. So everyone is talking about, prices have gone up, prices have gone up. Nobody's talking about the fact that cost of living is prohibitive in India today for the average person. That communication is not for Venu or Nilanjan or you and me. That communication is for their opponents. Those jokers are also unable to do it. So it's the blind leading the blind.
Nilanjan, what is your take on the current situation? How do you see the narrative shaping up for the next assembly elections?
By-election results are hardly any yardstick to say that what is going to happen in the coming assembly elections. By-elections are fought on very local issues. There are very local factors. There is also in Himachal Pradesh, we saw that the Congress had got the widow of Veerbhadra Singh to come up. There is a very strong emotive content in a by-election. So that, really gets in. So I don't really think that we should look at it. So I don't think, we can really look at it in terms of whether it's going to impact the assembly elections or not. There are two things which we have to keep in mind when you talk about price rise, COVID handling, misgovernance, the failure of government to do what it should be doing, what Suhail said very evocatively, that 5 rupees, 10 rupees, come on, what 5 rupees and 10 rupees really means for it. There are two things. One is that because of globalization of information, people are much more aware, and as a result of which, because price rise is a global phenomenon, people are more aware of this thing called crude and its rising prices. People are aware that price rise is possibly an inevitable issue, so they are not really drawn by this issue, which should actually be in the civic space be some kind of a common concern of society, of people. It ceases to be a common concern because we are not in the era of common concerns, but we are in the era of sectional, interest and sectional pursuits. That's the narrative which has been forged by the BJP very successfully, that people are not looking at the well-being of society at large, but maybe only apne aadmi, my Hindus, my Brahmins, so it's become a much more exclusivist polity, as a result of which it's the BJP narrative which has been successful in the last few years.
Okay. We're also joined by Yashwant Deshmukh, founder of Sea Voter.
I just want to say one half a second before it escapes. The narrative that is being spread today is so dangerous, it is so pernicious that you can't imagine. This level of divisiveness will come to bite the very people who foster it. This is something that they must recognize. This is not tenable and it has no longevity.
Well, I hope that what Suhail says is correct. Turns out to be right.
I hope that actually, Venu, the question has taken: is economy going to be an issue in the next assembly elections, or will they, play? I was actually in town last month in Lucknow, and I met the Samajwadi Party leadership, and they all were saying that हमारे favor में है, पर ये कुछ आखिरी मिनट में कुछ polarize ना कर दे. So this divisiveness that Suhail and Niranjan are talking about, will that be resorted to in the end?
Well, I think at a base level, the Indian electorate, first of all, I want to lay down a very, very broad principle, which I think Suhail also alluded to, which is in India, elections are lost. They are not won. I'll tell you why. Because it is an accepted theory that the Indian state, Priya, it is so broken. When I say Indian state, I'm saying in a broad sense, whether it's BJP in power or Congress or whoever, regional party. It is so broken that people's expectations of the state over the years has been very rather low, rather moderate, I would say, but it has increased. The aspirations have, of course, increased in the last 10, 15 years. So the Indian state, when it delivers welfare, so in India, we are the only country, Priya, where, Adityanath, UP government is advertising roads, bridges on front page of newspapers. Show me another country, another major economy which advertises something as basic as roads, or as basic as, hospitals, or as basic as some healthcare. So now, whether these things, now Mr. Modi has promised a lot of things that he would deliver, whether to farmers or whether different groups, different classes, different groups, different, castes. Now, they have waited, they've given Mr. Modi 10 years. They will definitely assess the economic impact after a certain period. So when I say when the Indian state is broken, people's expectations are low. So for a while, they would see the glass is half full. So I would say that for the past, say, 7-8 years, they are seeing Modi's governance or delivery in terms of economic welfare or development, as you call it, as half full. Very soon they will start seeing it as half empty. I'm convinced about it. And of course, the BJP thinks that by playing the divisive card, by playing the majoritarian card, they could turn attention away from people seeing the glass as half empty. By and by, Priya, I think that is not happening, because in every state assembly election, I'll give you just one bit of data, which is every state assembly elections after the 2019 thumping victory of BJP, there is an average reduction of 9 percentage points in BJP's vote share overall in all the state assembly elections, and they have a huge reduction in the number of seats which they would have otherwise in Lok Sabha they had won if you extrapolate for the assembly. Now, some people argue that when it comes to national, people will go back to Modi. My assessment is that people will not go back to Modi to the same extent. So the graph is actually downwards. So people will more likely see the glass as half empty in the years to come, the next 2-3 years. Yeah.
Okay, Yashwanji, Nilanjan, quickly.
A quick reminder: glass empty and glass half full. 2013-14, just as Modi was beginning to launch the campaign, at the function in the SRCC in Delhi University, Modi said the glass is always full. It's half water, half air. The point is that out here, we are basically faced with somebody who's a master's craftsman of phraseology, of political phraseology. That has to be countered. To that extent, Suhail is correct that the others have to come up with an alternative narrative, and also in a lingo and a phraseology which is understandable to people, especially because now that Yashwant has joined our discussion, almost 60% of the electorate make up their minds in the last few days in the run-up to the polling. That is going to be the very important thing. Hawa kaun bandta hai aakhir mein?
F1G, all the ground is laid. In fact, it's said that BJP election fight karti hai, with the username is development, but the password is Hindutva. So at the end of the day, they'll talk development, but actually the polarizing factor will be Hindutva. That's going to really get them the votes.
Priya, I was just listening, and all three are very senior to me. And
No, don't age me, yaar.
no, I'm not aging you. I said all of
And
them.
wisdom doesn't necessarily come with age.
Suhail is a very dear friend of me. I mean, I was just going to say the next line, Suhail. I mean, I was just about to come. So there is no reason to disagree with them. Just a few points to add, because without the narrative thing, what the observation that I have been looking at from the data and other perspective, I don't think that the last minute polarization kind of thing is something which is going to work or like they, for simple reason. Just like the age of pandemic is the new normal, Priya, COVID, new normal, as we call it. The new normal of Indian politics is Hindutva or right of center. It's no more a question of being a centrist or non-Hindutva politics. It is about soft Hindutva and hard Hindutva. Every damn party in the country, including the party of Mulayam Singh Yadav, who had a clear stand on the Ayodhya issue in 89 and 91, they are the new BJP on the Hindutva politics, and BJP is far more BJP on what it was or what it is. So Hindutva is the new norm. I mean, let's brace for it. So once you are on that line of things, so it's not a question of polarization kitna hoga. Polarization to फिर इतना होना था वो already हो चुका है. अब इसमें और कुछ polarization के लिए बचा नहीं. It's only about कि अब असली वाला हिंदुत्व कौन है, नकली वाला हिंदुत्व कौन है. That kind of campaign. मैं जनेऊधारी ब्राह्मण हूँ, तुम जनेऊ नहीं पहने हो वाला ब्राह्मण हो. Well, I mean, it's kind of weird. But let's face it, that kind of polarization is already done and dusted. Number two, so brilliantly and aptly discussed on the glass half full and glass half empty. And as Nilanjan Das said, Modi said that the glass has half air and half water. The thing is that we have seen a glass full of air in demonetization, yet public being happy about it. Can you give me another example of any policy which was such a disaster, yet public owning it up? Even today, as you go, people are suffering from demonetization. You will be finding it really difficult on the bottom of the pyramid for people to blame or find a fault in demonetization. वो ठीक है, गलत हुआ, लेकिन अच्छी नियत से किया, सही सोच के किया. Now, when you get a voter base tuned into that level, that even something which is self-inflicting and harakiri mode, which is a disaster, which is going to hurt them. But as I said, the glass was full of air. There was no water in demonetization. It was not even half full. But that full glass of air, when the public owns it up, then analysts like us are only scratching our head. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
There is no explanation to it.
But
and I guess yes.
But Priya, what is also happening is, for some strange reason, the Congress is obviously somnambulant, but the BJP is making everything into a national cause.
Yeah.
So if you're not aligned with that, you are anti-national.
Anti-national, exactly.
Everything is
I agree. That's what the narrative goes around. Whatever is in the wrong.
I'm on the
everything. If it goes with the cause of this is for nation. I have to jump on the 20th floor here, but if it is for the nation, I would be made believe that you must jump, and it's for a greater cause. So it's, election or the democracy is a game of, as Nilanjan Das said, that it's a game of perception, and with a huge population. And by the way, Nilanjan Da, I actually do not agree with that perception that 60% people vote in the last movement. This data set of, I think, has been quoted by some study, but in our thing, we have never found more than 30% population which is taking decision in the last 3 to 6 months. In fact, almost about 2/3 population nowadays are kind of already into this camp and that camp. So the so-called swing vote is about a 1/3, practically speaking. But yes, that swing vote is important. I absolutely agree with you. That swing vote is always important.
We're here discussing the coming state elections and whether development wins, or it's really the Hindutva or the way to sell a message really. So here, isn't that it? Isn't that what the Prime Minister and BJP is doing?
You know, the problem is brands always have benefits. You don't buy the brand, you buy the benefit. You don't buy surf, you buy the whitest wash. The problem here is we don't know what we are buying. The messaging is so obtuse, it's so obfuscatory that you and I really don't know what we're buying. You tell me that I have to give up my hard-earned currency or ill-gotten currency and change it overnight. And I'm supposed to do it because I think, oh my God, if I don't do it, I'm not a good Indian. The people are being messaged, and this is not only BJP. See, Modi is a master communicator, but he's not a master marketeer. Let me make that difference. Please don't make him a master marketeer, because that would be treating marketing in very diminishing manners. Because if he was a great marketing guy, he would have also understood that one element of marketing is that the brand must always have a surreal, honorable image. It mustn't be, discussed in unsavory, in an unsavory manner. Today we are seeing whether it's right wing, left wing, middle wing, I don't know. But the Prime Minister takes all the mud as well. His image does take the mud. So I would say messaging needs to improve. I think the Congress needs to get its act together. They are an irresponsible bunch of people because, being the opposition, they need to get their act together. The Mamata Banerjees of the world, rather than be shrill, they need to be strategic. The problem is India's politics is about shrillness and not about strategy.
Priya?
You've written a book on Prime Minister Modi. Sorry. Somebody else.
Yeah, sorry, carry on. No, I just wanted to make a point, Priya, that, apropos of what Deshmukh was saying, it is true that demonetization the glass was totally full of air. And yet, as Suhail says, Modi managed that messaging, right? Now, after a point, again, as Suhail pointed out, a brand needs to be backed by a product. So what I'm saying is, after 10 years, people will ask, what is a product? And, Priya, it's one of the things that Modi has succeeded in doing. It's very interesting. This is a Sangh Parivar strategy, which is to make sacrifice by people as a mobilization strategy. But that sacrifice during demonetization, sacrifice when petrol prices are 110, it is the sacrifice is their participation. Now, how long will the economic sacrifice continue to be participation in Modi's messaging or in Modi's success depends on how long this continues. How long will the people say that we are sacrificing to create a new India? At some point, the famous, Marxist, formulation that materialism is a base and culture and religion is a superstructure. The base will kick in at some point of time or the other. I mean, this is not just Marxists say that, but there are others also who believe this. Yeah.
Nilanjan, your take on the Prime Minister's politics.
We are talking about Prime Minister Modi. We are also talking about his capacity to market and publicize everything. So I think, I should also utilize this, occasion to do a bit of self-publicity and clarification. You said that I have written a book on Mr. Modi. In fact, it's just one of the books which I have written. I have written many more books. And my next book is just gone into press and it should be out within a month. It's on Ayodhya, and I look at this entire thing in a much more broader perspective.
Okay.
The Ayodhya issue, which has actually been part of our core journalistic career, at least Priya, you and Venu, I remember, Venu and I, as cub reporters, we branched out on covering religious conflict, all this gets, as to how the entire Ram Janmabhoomi agitation changed and transformed India, and what Yashwant was saying, that Hindutva is the new normal. So taking it beyond, hate and prejudice is also no longer politically offensive any longer. It is perfectly fine to dislike my immediate neighbor. It's not supposed to be that I'm supposed to, have what is called in Hindi, aankhon ki sharam. In fact, I just wrote an op-ed which has been published this morning, that I get reminded of this very quaint game of singles hockey we used to play as children when we did not have enough people to divide it up into two teams. So we would all play within the same half and everybody would shoot into the same goal. No one was team. Everybody would stop each other and shoot into the same goal. There was no goalkeeper because everybody is shooting into the common goal. So everybody is striking into the same thing. You have Arvind Kejriwal having his replica of a Ram temple in Delhi. If Ayodhya's one has been hijacked by Yogi Adityanath, doesn't make any difference. Priyanka Vadra goes to Varanasi and says, that Kashi Vishwanath becomes her proscenium to chant Durga Stutis and Jai Mata Di slogans and brandish a sword. Akhilesh Yadav raises a 51 feet statue of idol of, let me not call it statue and be charged of blasphemy, an idol of Lord Krishna in sci-fi in Itawa. So it's like everybody is onto this mad rush, and at a societal level, we are all perfectly fine by saying that Jummah namaz to honi hi nahi chahiye. Nobody's bothered that why do they come out? They come out because the urban spaces, if you look at all the fight which is taking place, they're taking place in new urban spaces where tremendous population has increased. While the Hindus have the ability to construct temples wherever they go, it's the religious minorities who have a major problem in constructing their places of worship. And so where do they go out? And so it's perfectly fine to say that how can you block the highway? The Home Minister of this country says, that my cavalry was stopped because I said, क्यों रुक गया? Because he says, आज शुक्रवार है तो मेरा जीके कमजोर हो गया कि मुझे समझ में नहीं आया कि आज शुक्रवार है तो मेरा गाड़ी क्यों रुक गया? नेशनल हाईवे पे नमाज पढ़ी जा रही है. अरे नमाज तो पढ़ेंगे नेशनल हाईवे क्या जाके राष्ट्रपति भवन में पढ़ेंगे if you don't build adequate mosques. We have all seen Delhi, we're right in the heart of the city. You have had the same mosques.
Yeah, I'm going to get Yashwant also into it before we run out of time. So the divisiveness is there. There is a new India, the Tyag ka India really. How does this compare with this one's in India, Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, the liberal India? Now we have this new grammar that is really coming into place.
You see, Newton's third law of motion, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So what was the action in the first 50 years of our independence? There was an opposite reaction to that. And I hope I'm not taking it too extremely. I mean, that's how the societies across the globe work. You have just seen a very weird round of bypolls and set of elections in the US. Look at the way Democrats have taken the beating over there. Yeah. And midterm, take it in writing. I do polling over there. I do run trackers over there. Yes, Democrats are going to face the crashing of their lifetime in the coming midterm in US. So it's like a pendulum. You have seen the far right, centrist, and the left, extra left in entire Europe. So pendulum जब एक तरफ से छूटता है ना 50 साल का बाद में, तो बीच में आके कभी नहीं रुकता. वो पहले एक बार उधर जाएगा. तो ये जो अभी का पेंडुलम है प्रिया, ये उस दूसरी साइड वाला है. While we are discussing today's India, we always forget that we got independence 75 years back, but it was a country which was divided on a religious line. We became a secular republic, that's fine. But to think on that something happened to our country and there would be no reaction in public mindset on that division, that would be wrong. Publics don't behave like that. There are things that are reactionary in the society at large. Globally there are. And the reactions they do, come out in various forms. Protests, votes, even riots and violence, So as long as we have democracy, I always consider election as a very middle class definition of me is pressure cooker में safety valve होता है ना प्रिया. ये जो election होता है ये वो pressure cooker का safety valve है. People have their own complexes and other reactions. They come out, that steam comes out in the form of vote. When we are unable to understand what exactly that frustration is, we try to compartmentalize that it is wrong, itna steam ho gaya. Yeah, that's fine. You know, don't get upset with that steam, because agar wo steam nahi niklega Priya, to cooker ek din phat jayega, aur jab cooker phatega to wo pure kitchen ka satyanash hoga. So this way or that way, let's all understand the mandates in the context that those mandates are given by the public. If they are neither bad nor good, they are just mandates. They are the pressure cooker ka safety valve. One more thing which I want to say,
because we are totally out of time.
just one more thing very quickly, that Suhail very aptly said that you need to improvise the product, you need to redefine the product. Yes, I will buy a toothpaste this month because I consider that toothpaste is better than the others. Next month I will buy it the same because probably first month I liked it. By the end of the second month, I said that okay, this is no good. You know, this is equally where my teeth are equally hurting. But when I go to the department store, that said, okay, I don't want to buy this toothpaste, and I figure out कि वो shelf पे वही एक toothpaste बचा हुआ है, बाकी कोई toothpaste रखा ही नहीं। तो मैं खरीदूंगा क्या? So my third purchase sometimes is out of मजबूरी कि कुछ खरीदने को है ही नहीं, दूसरी चीज मैं खरीदूंगा क्या? So this is what is going to happen. With all respect, due respect to MK point of view. So सर 2024 जो है वो इलेक्शन वो है जहां पे दूसरा ब्रांड शेल्फ पे नहीं है और
कोशिश तो कर रहे हैं, there are positioning happening. Let's see how they fare. In fact, it's too late.
It's too late. We are in 2021. It's too late. It's an incumbent government, and more importantly, it has the money. These people have neither strategy nor commercial.
Exactly.
It's too late.
If they have Prashant Kishore, that won't work.
Modi is India's prime minister in 2024. I'm not a psephologist. I'm going out on a limb and saying that when I look around, as Venu and I were talking, and I started say first, it's not about Modi. It's about no option.
It's the only toothpaste on the shelf, Priya, right?
Venu and Nilanjan agree quickly. Will Modi be the prime minister in 2024? Venu, yes, no?
I think
no. See, if Priya, if I am willing to concede that BJP may be the single largest, but I don't know whether within BJP there could be, if they fall short or of a simple majority. I mean, there could be many possibilities. Like, I mean, I can't say with certainty that he'll win a pakka majority.
Ranjan, quickly, yes. Do you think it will be Modi or some?
No, just the way it all depends on their ability to continue, making the people believe that this is a civilizational moment, that performance really does not matter.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, thank you all of you, and we're going to watch where the pressure cooker steam blows, as Yashwant said. But that's it for now. Thank you for taking part in this discussion, and thank you all for watching this show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.